All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you all had a great lunch. Some good stuff. Thank you, David, for that. My name is Charley Hogwood. I'm with Personal Readiness Education Programs at Ready Go Prep everywhere on the internet. A little bit about my background. I've got a little over 15 years in the U.S. Army as a cavalry scout, so if you're infantry, don't hold that against me, because I was also infantry. I've got several state licenses in construction. I'm an inspector. I'm an FAA commercial drone pilot. I've been running prep since 2010, went professional as a consulting training company. The impetus behind that has been my experience in disaster and my experience around the world, both in the Army and as a contractor doing other stuff, construction related. So I've seen kind of what happens when Mother Nature gets involved with people, and I've seen what happens kind of when people get involved with people. And it gets a little sketchy sometimes when you have people in traumatic situations, people in disaster. And one of the reasons I started getting prepared is because I saw what happens within families when, like for example, when I was deployed to Hurricane Andrew in South Florida in Homestead, and I was right in the middle of Homestead, so if anybody knows where Cutler Ridge is, or was, then you are familiar with the anarchy that happened down there when all the buildings were blown pretty much flat and you couldn't find your own house in your own neighborhood because you couldn't recognize anything. And people are standing in relief lines and looking for food and looking for family and that kind of thing. So my preparedness came up more from a natural disaster perspective, which is also my basic methodology of sharing preparedness comes from that. I don't talk a lot about the what we call low frequency, high impact events like economic collapse and things of that nature. I talk about the high frequency or the low frequency, high impact events. It could be a flat tire in a family. It could be, somebody loses a job and that's when the food stores came in to help out. It could just be that there was a tornado or a hurricane or some other natural disaster. And I find that most people that want to share their preparedness with other people that are not switched on, if you will, kind of have a tendency to frame that discussion in such a high, understandable way of economic collapse and Mayan calendars and all that stuff that immediately turns everybody off. So if you're having trouble with that, I just want to get that out there. Start at something everybody can relate to. Because if they have not experienced what we call a significant emotional event that switches them on, they're not going to really adapt very well to the economic collapse and we're all going to be living without power in the next 6 months or whatever it is. They're not going to get that. But if they've ever been without power because of an ice storm or a hurricane, or they've had a road blocked and they couldn't get to work, or a car broke down and they had to depend on friends or the group that they didn't have to help them out, or food, those kind of things might ring home a little bit better. So just a little touch on that. Today's discussion, I put this together, it did take a little bit longer than I expected. It took about a solid week to figure this out. I haven't presented this class yet. Actually, nobody but me has actually even seen this PowerPoint yet. So we're going to work through the mind a little bit. I appreciate the good doctor for sharing all that other information earlier on. He touched on some of that stuff, and we're not going to duplicate that. We're moving in a different direction. We're moving in the direction of, I am here, we have experienced some sort of an event, whether it be a big event or a smaller event, and how do we deal with people's mentality, their issues, their psychophysiological effects of some sort of traumatic event. And you brought up a great point, accept your reality, and I made a note of that during your discussion, Doctor. Accept your reality is one of the big key takeaways that I want you to remember in any event that changes from what's going on right now to almost a crash through your OODA loop. If you want to speed your way through an OODA loop, accept the event as quickly as possible. Now we're going to talk about denial and all the survival arc and all that stuff, but the sooner you accept the new reality, regardless of what it is, the faster you will adapt. The faster you adapt, the better chance you have to survive. I actually had that experience in an airport. We were running to an airport, and they changed airports on us. If you've ever been out to Texas, and you had Bush Airport, and what's the other one nearby there? So we were supposed to fly to one airport, and somehow they changed us, and we didn't find out about it until we got to the wrong airport. And my wife, Courtney, she's my rock, but she's like, we're gonna miss the flight, we're all messed up, we already dropped off the rental car. And I said, hold on, before we panic, this has already happened. Here's what we need to do. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to get on your cell phone and start getting through all the flights. Then I need you to call the airline. I want you to figure out what's going on here. Meanwhile, follow me. I'm going to get us through the airport here, and we're going to find the board here. So we had a plan, and it calmed us both down. And we actually made it to the other airport in time, 30 minutes away from when the plane actually took off and made that airplane. So if you accept your reality that something's going wrong and get out of that denial phase quicker, you will have a better chance of survival and more successful. In this thing today, there are several books that I use. This is only a few of them. I used a few more you'll see on your handouts. Psychological First Aid by Johns Hopkins. You see all my tabs in there? We're going to go through something called RAPID, which is a crisis intervention. This is a really good book I recommend you read, called The Unthinkable by Amanda Ripley. This goes through survival stories and stories that happened. They're really heavy on 9/11. They're heavy on plane crashes, tsunamis, and because they interviewed a lot of people that went through there. What happened? When did you find out about it? What did you think was going on? What was your reactions to it? So, awesome book to read. You'll learn a lot about. This is where you'll learn about your disaster personality, which we're going to discuss here shortly. Also, helping children cope with disasters and terrorism. Very boring read. But this is more of a textbook. It's got a lot of study stuff in it, but I really pulled, you see my tabs in here, I pulled a lot of data out of this book. Because children in disasters is going to be a huge ordeal for us. The scope of the presentation today, sorry, I'm used to working with giant screens. So you may have to take notes. If I say something and you don't pick it up, please ask me and I'll repeat it. Because some of this is going to get a little deep. We're going to focus on the human behavior, reactions, and symptoms before, during, and after various disasters and traumatic type of events. How to define your disaster personality, what to look for in others and yourself. We're going to cover that too. How do you separate yourself from this impairment that you might be going through and don't even know it? Why some people fare better in crisis than others. Do we think that's true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. How to improve your odds before and during the crisis. So that's what we're going to try to get through. Throughout the presentation, you're going to see human symptoms and actions that might normally come off as mental illness. Do you ever walk down the street and say, that person's a little, escape from crazy acres, right? What might they be experiencing? What might they be doing to lead you to that behavior or that thought? Give me an example.
Wearing pink pussy hat?
Okay, all right, living in an alternate reality. Sure,
Muttering
talking to
to
themselves. Yeah, so that kind of stuff, you might think that that is a mental illness, but it might also be context specific. So we're going to dig into that. It's important to understand the context in which these are happening and what the person may have experienced. People all handle situations differently, and adaptable to you may not be seen as possible to them. You might say, why are you freaking out right now? This is not that big a deal. Do you think it's possible that the person you're talking to is like, I just can't handle this right now? I got a daughter in college. You know what I hear? There's a lot of traffic. I got a lot of school. I'm so stressed. I'm like, darling, you don't even understand stressed. Okay? So I might be already equipped through my life experiences to deal with the high pressure, events. She's just getting into this. This is a whole new life for her, being away from home for the first time for sure. So it's really important not to jump to conclusions about somebody's behavior. You do not know, and remember this, you do not know the fight a person is waging in their own head. Don't jump to conclusions. They may be waging a fight that you're not aware of. And that could be whether it's at work, in a traumatic event, post-traumatic event, it could be years later. Sources of reference, the 3 books I told you about. The FEMA CERT Trainer's Manual. I'm a FEMA CERT trainer, program manager for CERT. Anybody in CERT? Done any of the training?
Long time ago.
Okay, all right, very good. I strongly recommend that you all do it if you can. Call your local EOC or Emergency Operations Center in your county. It's a free thing, and they give you a cool backpack after all kinds of training. And you meet new people. So if you listen to me ever talk about groups, I call that a funneling opportunity. Go to places where other people are doing that same kind of thing, and you'll find people that are thinking like you are. Disaster Psychology, Dispelling the Myths of Panic, which is a research.gate article. Survival Medicine Handbook by Joan Amy Alton. Great friends of mine, great book. The Survivors Club by Sherwood. Death, Despair, and Second Chances by Evans, which is really stories about rescue and death on the Rocky Mountains, chronological history. So let's talk about immediate trauma versus what a lot of us talk about here as social change, societal change. Regardless of the event size and intensity or duration, mental health can be a factor with you and those around you. Do we agree that mental health can be a problem? Okay. A car crash, an active shooter, a structure fire can be a traumatic event to those involved. Right? So right now what we're doing is we're establishing a baseline. We're establishing what can happen and agreeing that it can happen, right? Societal breakdown may be emotionally disturbing, but the follow-on effects that would impact you personally. All right, so think about this. I want you to take these big giant problem of a societal collapse that we have been talking about all weekend and break it down. What does that mean to me? Give me some examples of what a follow-on effect of a societal breakdown, a collapse of our system would cause. Give me a couple of examples that might affect you mentally.
Unknown status of people that you care about.
Okay.
Your daughter in college, your parents in another city across the
All right.
state.
So could I be distressed because I can't reach her? Do you think that can affect my decision making? What else might affect me in a societal event, even if it's not a psychological issue? What can happen?
Uncertainty about what's going on, period, around you.
Okay, lack of information, uncertainty, your lack of awareness, your situational awareness. All right, give me another example. Physiological issues. We're going to dig into that. Very good. How about the power goes out? Can that affect us? Can that bring on some sort of an emotional toll to us? How? What happens if the power goes out? How's that going to hurt
If
me?
it's like Western hot in the summertime and everybody gets angry when
All
they're
right.
over.
That's very true. Very true. Go ahead.
Frustration.
Frustration. Okay. So the power goes out. We're all hot. We're all uncomfortable.
And no internet.
And if the Wi-Fi goes down, we might as well just go ahead and check ourselves out. Okay. On Maslow's triangle, I've seen some. You got physiological needs at the bottom, primary, but I've seen some that says Wi-Fi and battery life are more important. So it's very true. So it's not that the system collapsed. It is what the system collapsed that is now affecting you individually. So I want you to take this entire lecture or presentation personally, because you got to work in your headspace. Preparedness includes management of the mental, emotional fitness of the people. Yes? So we all store some food, some water, our ammo, right? We do all that stuff, but are we preparing ourselves mentally and emotionally? How can we prepare ourselves emotionally for a traumatic event? If we know it's coming,
Run scenarios.
you can run scenario. Okay, to training.
Stress inoculation.
Stress inoculation. Nobody knows how they're going to react for sure until they really enacted or had to experience an event. But what you can do, and we're going to dig into a little bit later, is realistic training. Think about it. Get it in your mind. Work it out. People are always your biggest problem. Charley Hogwood wrote that. I say it all the time. All the time. I can think my way out of just about any survival situation, given time and resources, the skills, the mental fitness to do it, until somebody else shows up. Disagree? Somebody else shows up, what happens? They got their own view of how to get something done. They have their own agenda, their own objectives, their own experiences. Their mind is closed. They want to argue. They want to follow. They ask a lot of questions, and I'm in the middle of doing something. I mean, all these things can be a problem when you're focused on trying to get something done if you're not able to also manage their emotional fitness. Make sense? Do you think that, who knows somebody that might show up in an event and be just a total basket case and look to you for all the answers?
Yeah.
If you're not raising your hand.
I know somebody like that.
Well, he's experienced a little bit of that.
Okay, so we've all experienced it. How many, let me put it this way. If the zombies show up, I'm coming to your house. Yes? We heard that. Why do we hear that? What did we do wrong to invite that statement?
We told him too much about what we got.
You told them too much. You violated your operational security. You said, I got 10,000 rounds of ammo. I got more ding-dongs and ho-hos than anybody in town. Zombieland reference.
Source of toilet paper.
I got toilet paper. And they're all like, I am coming to your house. Is that a problem for you?
Yeah.
Psychologically, when I
possibly.
shoot them, it might be a problem.
So you follow up, I'm coming to your house, and you say, I shoot you if you come to my house. All right? A little sidebar on this. I have a longtime buddy, Army Special Forces medic, construction partner friend of mine. We owned a business together. Our kids, our boys grew up together in Scouts. And I'm always telling them, my man, you're this tall. You're this big around. You need to set aside a can of raviolis, maybe a gallon of water, do something. He goes, I don't have to. I have enough ammo to get to your house. I said, look, man, I love you like a brother, but I'll shoot you like any other. I've been telling you. Don't show up your big self hungry at my front door. Okay? So, the mind can be your best asset or your worst enemy. I think I made that up. I'm not sure. Can't guarantee it. Agreed?
Yeah, always.
Can the mind overcome a lot of what the body says can't be done?
Yes.
We agree. Okay. Excellent. What you are going to encounter in the field. Traumatic events can affect many people simultaneously or just you. Crisis events can cause mass psychological stressors among others. Okay? A couple of things. I know you can't see. Apologies. I know you guys can't see too well over there. Y'all welcome to move around. Fear of own death. Fear of injury. Exposure to dead and dying. Is that emotional? Especially if they're
Yeah.
family. Bereavement, loss, social and community disruption. If your whole community starts to collapse and people are going in 100 different directions more than usual, can that be a problem? Can that really start to waver your commitment, your thinking? Ongoing hardship. So let's say whatever has happened continues to happen. Right? Now, that could be your personal issue. You lost someone, not even a disaster event, it was a car crash, you lost a family member. Are you possibly, or somebody else in your family, going to experience ongoing hardship? Is that an issue, psychologically, mentally, emotionally? Okay, yeah, it is. If the raiders came to your house and took all your food and then killed somebody, and now you're stuck without food and the grid's down too, is that not a very similar,
Yeah.
although very disconnected analogy? Okay. Stressors, and we're going to get into stressors, what that is here shortly. Stressors can present differently in people based on their experience and understanding of how the body works. Do we all understand exactly how our body works in a traumatic event if we have not actually experienced a traumatic event? No. We talked about this a moment ago. Do you all think you know how you would react in a certain situation if you've never experienced it personally? We have an idea. I think we have what we think we would do. What we would hope we would do. And in some cases, we have also what we would hope we wouldn't do. Because I've heard a lot about, discharging ammo on people that aren't listening. Okay? But, so, we don't want to lose our humanity over this, but people are often prescribed medications. The good doctor brought this up. I'm not digging into that because that's already been discussed and I figured it would be before I got to this. There's a lot of problems with that. People self-medicating. Is that a problem today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, give me an example of self-medication that might be untraditional.
Crystal meth.
Crystal meth, all right. All right. Is that a form of self-medication? Is that kind of drug use of self-medication? Excuse me.
Controlled self-medication.
Say again?
Poorly controlled self-medication.
Poorly controlled, yes, and very often that be the case.
Eating 2 tons of ding dongs.
Wait, is that a fat joke? Because I resemble that.